Have you noticed that you don't discuss business with your friends when you have £1,000 in your account? But the moment when you're down to £149.75, you start talking about what business should we do. That's the wrong time to discuss business. You're discussing it from panic.
So Ngoni, we know that you're into real estate and you're into finances. Could you talk to us a little bit about stewarding and budgeting finances?
Good question. I think stewardship and when it comes to budgeting and finances, it can be quite broad. The reason why I think it's quite broad is because there's an approach I have which is more intricate based on the financial venture, business venture that I'm doing. But I think from a holistic perspective or from a day-to-day perspective of how I like to manage my finances is, first and foremost, you want to have at least 6 bank accounts. Now, I'm someone, when it comes to saving, I get carried away. I'll be very honest. I get carried away. So with the 6 bank accounts, it helps me because there's a certain amount of money that I know the moment it comes into my account, I send it off. I put it away. I put it into a bank account which is different to my daily bank account. So if you bank daily with maybe HSBC, put the savings in Barclays. The reason I do that is because psychologically, you're so used to clicking on the HSBC banking app and seeing your money and then spending it. But if you put it on the Barclays app, which you never really use, because that money's out of sight, it's basically out of mind. So what I like to do is I like to put some of my money into a savings account. And with these 6 bank accounts, you're going to have one bank account which is designated savings. Maybe 10% of your monthly income goes there. You're going to have another bank account which is going to be given purely to personal and self-development. So that's going to be education, training. You're going to give maybe 10%, maybe 20% to that. But it can equally go into this third bank account, which I'm going to talk about, which is going to take a bigger percentage, which is called investment. So I have another bank account, which is for investment. I learned this from GC. And so this investment bank account that I have, this is where I put the money for my investments, for property, for maybe if I'm going to the financial markets, that's where I put the money. And so that tends to be at least 30% of what I make that month. So you're going to put 10% savings, 10% into, education and personal development, 30% into, let's actually call it 40%. 40% is going to go into your investment accounts. That's where you're going to put money for investing. And then you're also going to take, so now we're at 60%. Are we at 60%? We're at 60%. Right? Great. So we're at 6%. So that's 6%. And then I also have, I have another account which is called activity and leisure. So that's the food, the bowling, the cinema, anything else that's random along those lines. That comes under that bracket. So that also gets 10%. And that's also where clothing comes in. Okay, so now we're at 70%. And then also as well, we have 30%. Now, subject to how much you give, the rest of your 30% might just go to God. But I believe that everyone definitely at a minimum should be giving, and whether you give to charity, whether you give to an organization, give 10%, right? Whether you give to the church, give 10%. So 10% goes to giving. This is a practice that's done by many entrepreneurs and many people that are successful in the business world. And I think it's very important, add value also monetarily, not just by providing your services, but give back. It's good. So 10%. Let's say, that brings us to 80% now. So with the 20% that I have remaining, that's 1, 2. So I have leisure, I have investment, I have savings, and then I also have personal development, and then I also have giving. My sixth account. Yes, my sixth account is my emergency account. Now, this is for the rainy day. I didn't learn this first time when I was in cryptocurrency. So when I lost a lot of money in my first bull run, I didn't recover so well because I didn't have an emergency account. The emergency account is the money that you say on a rainy day, come rain, come thunder, I need this. That's your bailout system, all right? You want to put 10% there. And then on the seventh account, that's going to be your current account. That's just going to be money that you're going to have, sitting around, the other 10%. So now we've gone through the 400%. Now, please understand, all of these budgets and these accounts that I'm saying to you, this is what you do after you've paid your bills, your main bills. But as for myself, when it comes to the giving, the 10%, I don't even count that as my money. Just like tax comes off, that just comes off. Okay? So you pay your bills, your gas, your electric, your council tax, Wi-Fi, all the other bills that you have to pay, your rent, your mortgage, whatever it is. And then from what's remaining, fraction it proportionately according to these accounts that I've said. And then you'll realize that you'll start becoming more better and more responsible with your finances. A lot of people need this acknowledgement. You need to take time to sit down, go on your bank app, your banking app, go through all of your account statements, starting from January until now. You'll be shocked how much money is going in and out your account. You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked how much is going in and out your bank account, because for a lot of people, money's passed through their hands, and then the money that they're expecting God to give them, they're unaware that God already gave it to them. Okay, this is called the parable of the ants. The Bible says this. It says, learn a lesson from the ants, O you sluggard. It says that in the summertime, they gathered their harvest. The harvest that you're expecting God to give you financially, it already came. But then you spent it on hair. You spent it on a trip to Monaco. You had no business in Monaco at that time. So what happens is we start using the money because we believe it has no reason. But the money had reason all along. But if you've given the money adequate places to stay and you've proportionately diversified your money, spread your money rather, and then diversified your investments, it then means in turn that the retention of money in your account increases. And then money just doesn't just slip through your hands. Because when money slips through your hands, £1 million is the last thing you need at that moment in time. You're going to have a big headache. You're going to have £1 million just slipping through your account. This is what happens with a lot of lottery winners, They win the lottery, and then I believe it's in the first 5 years, they all go broke. Because they didn't have stewardship. They didn't have the mindset to facilitate that level of resources, that level of income. So when they have that money, when they've won that big amount of money, 500,000, $1 million, it doesn't stay because they never had a plan. Start planning how you invest $1 million, and then how you invest 100,000, then how you'd invest 10,000. And based on how you invest 10,000, plan how you're going to invest your 1,000. So you start to intricately build your plan. Everyone can do it. It's not going to cost you more money, especially some of these banking apps that we use, like Revolut and things like that. They like to put it in pockets and wallets. Just diversify. Have 6 accounts, 7 accounts. That's the first thing. Second thing is have a baseline. The baseline is the amount of money that you're not going to allow your current account to go below. Okay? I have a baseline. So your baseline might be 20K, it might be £500. If you have 20K, maybe you're someone who has a lot more money than the average person. Maybe yours is £500. The baseline means what is the amount of money you can have in your account and still feel comfortable. You don't feel intimidated. You don't feel broke. Because when you feel intimidated and broke, you start to make irrational decisions, uncalculated financial choices. You start to make unwise investments because you're investing from fear and scarcity. So I keep a baseline. If you have a baseline, you don't actually even need a savings account, I'll be honest. You can have one, but you don't need one. Because ultimately, there's a psychological place you need to get to which informs your decision making when it comes to business. You come into that place psychologically when you're comfortable and confident. So make sure that your financial circumstance constantly stimulates that mentality. All right? It constantly keeps you in that place where you're comfortable, you're confident. All right? That means that you're not panicking. Have you noticed that you don't discuss business with your friends when you have £1,000 in your account? But the moment when you're down to £149.75, you start talking about what business should we do. That's the wrong time to discuss business. You're discussing it from panic. That means you're not even going to make a good business, because the reason why you're making the business is for your own convenience. You're just making the business to serve you. Yes, the business will serve you, but ultimately it should serve the people. And we have a moral obligation to render any high-value service to society and our community to make it a better place. And that should be the perspective by which you do business. So a lot of people have what I call the tuck shop mentality. There's nothing wrong with small businesses, tuck shops, nothing wrong with them at all. But people start businesses which they know they can't scale. People make investments which they know they can't grow. And the reason why they do it is because they just want a quick buck. Quick money doesn't stay. What you need is old money. Old money is the money that is no longer new money, meaning that the way you spend it, the way you invest it, there's no longer excitement or zeal around it because it's been present for a while. Okay? So £10,000 come in. But when the £10,000 comes in, it's old money, even though you haven't had it physically before. The reason why it's old money is because your perspective and your approach to investing, you think like a multi-millionaire. So 10,000 doesn't excite you. This is one of the ways as well, one of the signs that you'll know that God is changing your financial status and that you're shifting. Yeah. When you didn't have £1,000, when you were 15, 16, it sounded like a lot of money, £1,000. And then you came to a point where £1,000 now, because you could spend it in a week, you realize it's not enough. It's too little. Okay? Now, instead of expanding your worry, expand your vision. So have a baseline. Treat that money the way you'd treat money if you're a multimillionaire. Your main question isn't, how do I save more money? Your main question isn't even, how do I invest my money? Your biggest question and your main question is, who's the person I need to become that knows how to save that money? And who's the person I need to become who knows how to invest that money better? So, the version of you that can save all of their pennies, what do they do? What time do they wake up in the morning? How many books do they read? How in tune are they? That version of yourself is the version that you need to start becoming. So the £1 million has to enter here first before it enters here, before it enters your pocket. It has to be in your mind first before it enters your pocket. So baseline is another tool that I use. And then, of course, as well, I have my 6 or 7 bank accounts. But that's what I can say in a nutshell. Hey, guys, thank you so much for watching. There are so many tips, gems, pearls, rubies, whatever you want to call them, that are being dropped on this channel. And I'd really love if you guys could just click the button below, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and stay tuned for more. And please feel free to share this with 5, 10, 20, as many people as you can. And also as well, it won't hurt you to comment. I'd love to read some of your comments and see how we can help you build and grow. So thank you so much. See you next time.